What up, people? Crack Lemonade here. And when it comes to retro games, and I don't even want to use the term retro games. I want to think about it as like literally gaming in the 90s. When it came to gaming in the 90s, there were a lot of games, and there was a period of time before there were like established controller rules. Um, and when I say that, um, there are a lot of games that I have on the Sega Genesis that have never saw the light of day outside of the Sega Genesis due to the fact that a company goes under or they decide to go into a different direction and work on something outside of video games. Uh, there are multiple things that happen, and when I was young, I really didn't have that idea or that concept of permanence on of games. Like I thought that the type of games that I enjoyed at on the Sega Genesis would somehow be on the Sony PlayStation and so forth. Um, I don't know why I had that idea, but I didn't get a PlayStation until 1999, and in order to get games, I sold my Sega Genesis games, which uh, was the system that I had up until 1999. Um, but before I started doing that, this actually is the first game that I ever played on the PlayStation, and this is Skeleton Warriors. Um, I don't really know the story behind this game. I just know that this and Metal Gear Solid were the first two games that I played on the PlayStation 1 in 1999. And I completely um forgot how this game plays, how this game looks, and I recently reacquired it because I thought it would be fun to play. And one of the weirdest things I will say about this game, besides the look, is the control. Um, you actually press triangle to jump, and X is a projectile button, where I believe the circle is using your sword, and it is basically like isometric. I believe that's the term. Um, it really looks a lot like whatchamacallit, Donkey Kong, but on the PlayStation. And I can tell that they were trying to go for like futuristic looking, and this was something that was very impressive at the time graphically. It might not look that way now. And one of the more interesting things is with Skeleton Warriors, when you destroy the skeletons, you have to collect whatever they drop. Because if you don't collect whatever they drop, the skeletons can reform and attack you again. Um, and again, this is very early PlayStation where um, they stuck with 2D, but like made 3D renders of things to make it look better, or give an illusion of 3D. I'm not sure the actual technical purpose, or you can't really. don't quote me on like that being the real reason, but there are also 3D sections in this game. But yeah, I just want to share this because it is something that I remember playing as a kid, and this was very difficult. I don't remember beating the game, to be honest with you. I don't remember how far I got with the game. Uh, I do believe this has a password system instead of like saving to the memory card as well, because this is one of the earlier PlayStation games. But I will say it is fun, right? It is something that I'll probably revisit a little bit more, see if I can get a little bit further in the game, and see what it's all about. Because I do not remember a plot to this game whatsoever. So, in terms of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, um, I would say that a lot of my memories are with the PlayStation 1. I feel like that was the more mind-blowing period with video games for me. Even though PlayStation 2 was like a really it was a really interesting, great, fantastic time to be playing video games, and Metal Gear Solid 2 was my first PlayStation 2 game. So I I don't know, I think I had a good experience with the PlayStation 2. And the best part about the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 1 is that the game libraries are so big that no matter what year you were born, like, in the PlayStation 1's lifestyle, you definitely had a completely different experience from somebody else with a PlayStation 1. For example, I did not play any of the Squaresoft games or Resident Evil when they were out in the 90s. And I definitely missed out on some of that. But at the same time, I had fun with the titles that I had at the time, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And I believe that people who had the PlayStation 1 growing up and they didn't have this game, for example, or they didn't have any of the early PlayStation 1 games, they had, started with like Tekken 3 or something later. They have fond memories of the PlayStation. There really isn't a right or wrong way to game or collect for gaming. For me, one of the things that um that comes to mind when getting games for a system is, will I play it? I don't really care about like, super rare games, like if they're terrible and it's worth like $500, like I can just get good games instead of play terrible ones. So there's ultimately no point of like, I guess, a value seeking. And it sucks for certain games, like I'll probably never play The Adventures of Tron Bond because I didn't know anything about Mega Man in the 90s. That wasn't any part of any of the titles that I played. I grew up playing the Sega Genesis, so um, yeah, it really wasn't something that I even knew. I don't even think I knew anybody who had a Mega Man game in the 90s. We all had different Sega Genesis games. Um, I remember playing The Lion King a lot on Sega Genesis, but you know, that's pretty much it for me. That's my little ramble for today. What was your first video game? What was your first system? And let me know in the comments, and I will catch you guys a little later. Um, and you can enjoy this weird boss fight as well.